Let's now move on to a very interesting session. And for the same, I would like to invite the two eminent thought leaders, Mr. Neeraj Bansal and Mr. Dhaval Ajmera. The topic of conversation is the second gen leaders charting real estate transformation. Yes, we are talking about the next generation of the entrepreneurs in the real estate sector. So let me very quickly introduce our panel members. Leading the conversation will be Mr. Neeraj Bansal, Partner Risk Advisory, Co-Head and COO India Global KPMG in India. Neeraj Bansal has over 23 years of professional experience. He has played the role of a market maker through collaboration with ASEAN and Hong Kong member firms. He has extensive experience serving global clients in the IT, BPM, and service industry, delivering a broad range of solutions addressing various risk and scalability requirements. Our eminent speaker joining Neeraj Bansal is Dhaval Ajmera, Director Ajmera Realty and Infra Limited. A second generation entrepreneur, Dhaval Ajmera has led the company's strong presence in India, Bahrain, and United Kingdom, and has successfully launched some of the most ambitious projects of the company. He has also been a member of Credai Youth Wing, West Zone, and with more than 20 years of experience, Dhaval is a result-driven young business leader. I now hand it over to Mr. Bansal to take forward the conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sapna, for that. Great introduction, and then welcome everyone, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Dhaval, hi. Great to be with you today. Dhaval, you're on mute.
Hi.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hello,
everyone.
can you hear me?
Yeah, Dhaval, we can hear you well.
Hi.
So, Dhaval, thanks for joining in, and thanks for the audience there. I was listening to the previous session, and I think a couple of themes that did rhyme with me. We would try and kind of get a little bit deeper in this session today as well. So, Dhaval, kind of kicking off the session. In the previous session there was a lot of discussion on the real estate market, what the change that's happening, as well as in terms of more on the timing part of it, maybe towards the last leg of the session around it. But if I take, let's say, if I take a little step back, right? We were speaking about that, that real estate is changing every 5 years, 10 years, in the previous session there. Now, if you take a step back, you are coming from a family-owned business, and you're the second generation entrepreneur there. What are the opportunities and challenges that you would say are there, from a family-owned business? And also, if you can add in terms of, what is your journey has been? And when you look at your leadership style, how is it different from the earlier generation?
Okay, thank you, Realty Plus and Neeraj, for hosting this and having me here. It's a great honor for me to be part of this. As we heard earlier also, and as Sapna rightly said, and Piyush said that today real estate is just been evolving year on year. It's not like a old cycle of 20 years or 30 years. Every 5 years or something, you see changes within the entrepreneurs, within the developers, within the market itself. So it's like the cycle is just going too wavy every month on month or year on year. So, just to give you a background, I come from a joint family business. We've been in this business since last 53 years now. I'm a second generation entrepreneur and developer. I'm very proud to say today we are 3 generations working together. So even the third generation is also part of our business. And so it's actually I would say at least what works in our company is the unity, most importantly, that counts. And primarily my biggest thing is that, when there is, at least what I see between 3 generations, like first generation's experience and, that thought leadership which comes into place, second generation's execution or, the challenges for the execution which come into place. And the third generation is like the idea. So even for us, when the thought leadership and new ideas which come together, it makes a big difference in the entire process. And that's what we see happening in our businesses. So, primarily for us, making mistakes or going wrong somewhere honestly, it's not that we can't make mistakes, but the chances become very, very minimal because you have the experience, you have the leadership, you have someone's head over it. So that's how, the business goes on, and you are actually stopped from probably taking some risks or things which you're not supposed to do. So that's what I feel is the advantage in having 2 or 3 generations together. Coming back to how I started, well, it's a very exciting thing. Obviously, being advantageous to my own family business, you have the knack of starting very early. And I was a little more curious to know and get into business very early on. So probably just after my college, or probably during my college days, I had started part-time working. And then once I became a graduate, I learned during my college days only how construction takes place, how real estate. Although I came from a background of commerce, probably engineering was a practical lesson for me going at sites. And then obviously going forward, it was, once I finished my graduation, I took over a few sites. And that's how the journey actually started. Then slowly from one site to two, and then one city to another, and then one probably a vertical to another. That's how the growth happened. So it's probably I would again say the experience and the shoulder of elders and young together makes the entire journey more exciting.
Wonderful. And if I just extend that, the popular idea is that running a family-owned business is easier as one inherits the systems and structures and processes in the organization which have been going on for some time. How would you address this perception, and is it the right perception?
Well, it's a mixed bag of both, I will say. To give you our example, we started off as a family business from a single ownership, if I have to say 53 years back. Slowly, when my late uncle started this business, it was him who actually brought in, and then his brothers joined him. And then we as second generation, slowly as we grew up, started coming in. So it comes with its own pros and cons, but eventually we have evolved within our company to make this from a family run business to a professionally run business as well. So how much ever importance we have of a family member being part of the organization or the business, I think equal importance is for the professional, because they bring in the right culture, they bring in the right methods, which probably we may be not averse to, or we may subconsciously not be averse to. It's an open mindset. And then slowly, when we moved from a privately held business to a public listed, I think it even became more and more important for us to have the mixed bag of professionals and family run together. So leadership may be wherever we are as a family member, but I think professionally, down the line, the execution, and wherever required, we have the thought leadership of professionals. So it's very, very important to have this mixed bag for any successful business or a development business to go in.
Great. So you brought on an interesting point while we were talking about the generational part of it, but I think, rightly you pointed out towards the professional management involvement as well. And if I would like you to kind of go slightly, let's say, deeper, from the perspective that, that there would be potentially other developers, second generation, third generation listening to this, or are kind of, facing similar challenges, that you've inherited a family-owned business, jointly family-owned business, and then you are looking for expansion and further growth around it. But there is a need for further ideas and further thoughts, as well as a certain amount of governance to come in, certain amount of management to come in. There's a extra bandwidth around it. So what are the, let's say, you would say 2-3 things that they should be watching out for doing that well, so that there is a good, strong integration of professional management within their organization?
So, Neeraj, just to give you our example, we've at our, we have seen that wherever we require professional help, I mean, as today professionals bring in a lot of thought leadership. They bring in a lot of experience with them, with how the market functions, with how the requirement is, what is more important for a business or a development to go in. I think all those things, because we as developer or the owners are confined to our own business or our working style, when there is a professional who's coming, he comes with an experience of probably 5 companies, 7 companies, 10 companies, So that's, the best of everything comes to a professional, which is, respectfully very great for a company, and you pick up and you adopt to those changes is very, very important. Because today, with real estate, at least in India, what I see with, the after ERA, the transparency, the ethics, so much of compliance has come into play, so much of transparency, openness has come into real estate. I think it is not possible by I would say, a developer alone or an entrepreneur alone to take this path. I think the success of a company or a development or a real estate development, at least in India and primarily also, I would say in Bombay, when you are a listed developer, when you are a developer who is into, who is a RERA compliant developer, I think a need of professionals is the most important thing, because you adopt to new changes. That's most important for a developer to do or an entrepreneur to do, is to accept those changes to move on for the growth of it. So I think this mixture of an entrepreneur and professional would be the success of any, I would say, any real estate development today.
Sure. So blending the requirements which are there, so the white spaces that are there within the leadership, the bandwidth requirement part of it. So get the professionals in that, and then look at the perspective to have the openness to accept, the changes that have to be done is something that you're stressing on. Okay, great. So moving on to another theme, the technology is something which is getting spoken about, tremendously today, and the COVID taught us, some very hard lessons. Many of our, I would say, real estate, I've been looking at this for last about close to about 18 years now. And the kind of changes that I saw, the rapid adoption of technology. Real estate, of course, across the sectors, but real estate was one, area again, especially the industry in India, where we saw that, there was a tremendous adoption, a very quick adoption as well in that, from technology point of view. What is your opinion, for integrating technology in the real estate operations? Some that you've done already. I understand that Ajmera Group has got ERP and several other softwares implemented. So what's your own opinion on integrating technology with real estate operations?
I think, Neeraj, one thing is very clear for any development, be it real estate or be it any business. I think unless and until you don't adopt to technology today, I think you will not be able to succeed. That's the motto which we firmly believe, and then that's been proven in and out every time. And today, for the success and growth of a real estate development, I think technology plays the most important role. You have your horizon expands, your your bandwidth expands, your reach expands. I think that's the most important for any player to grow. We cannot be confined unless it's like, even if I'm confined to one micro market, or if I'm confined to, even if I'm confined to probably a bylane, where I will just do development probably for the next 10 years in that particular bylane. I think without technology, it's not possible for a developer or anyone to grow. So it's most important that we adopt to it. Secondly, I think we as companies, and looking at that, we all saw during the COVID times how every one of us got adopted to the Zooms of the world. Like, it just let's just take this, this probably, whatever we are doing. I think it was not always, we've done, at least pre-COVID eras, was only physical. We would probably be a 5-star hotel or, conference room or however it is. And that's how we've done our conferences. But today, with thanks to Zoom, we have the reach to go to the world, entirely. And probably I'm sitting in my office and you're sitting in your office, and we are still doing this webinar. So most important thing is the technology. And going forward today in construction, the sales and with even the government is really moving ahead with a lot of technological aspects. So I think for the sales, for execution, for banking, every aspect is evolving in a new technology, and with that, I think the growth is only imperative if you don't have that. So probably, at least in us, we are very clear. We are moving towards a lot of e-transactions. We are moving a lot towards ERP. All our processes and systems are only through ERP. We don't have anything manual. Very, very rare we would say anything is manual. All our sales, our target is to also have probably sales registration, which, going towards e-registrations, and probably having an entire process of our registration not having any physical, sale deed copies. Everything can be done online and probably be on the cloud. So that's where we are, evolving and moving towards. And obviously during our construction also, with whatever we can, because somewhere it's eventually brick and mortar is what we all live for. That's something which we will not probably be able to change, but otherwise wherever we can and what we can, we definitely adopt.
No, sure. I think what you say is absolutely on the lines of that. I mean, have similarity in thinking, and certainly I'm very excited about the fact that the customer facing side of it. Clearly, the adoption has been very fast and also moved in as well. Whether it's a customer, whether it's the internal operations of the organizations as well, and then majority of our real estate developers had been kind of working on certain set of ERP at certain point in time. They've kind of upgraded the systems, have kind of written the playbook, again, for managing their operations more swiftly in terms of, the sales, the CRM, as well as, trying to use more data now and that. But I think one thing which I'm very enthused about is the fact that the construction technology, the contact part, that is something which has kind of, changed in the last, 3 years more specifically, if I may say, given that previous to that, the fact that, the cycle times for doing a floor, was somewhere, we used to talk about 4 weeks, 3 weeks kind of a thing there. But now, we're talking about 5 days, 7 days, now 3 days as well. So that is something which is, I think, very exciting. And I think the more adoption of that, as it happens in the industry, we would see that we are much more closer and attuned to the customer's requirement. And, the agility part of it, which is somewhere, our industry has kind of, suffered in certain sense of perception also. So that kind of, would also help in changing that. Would you also?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. If you just, if you see today, I don't know if you recently, we've heard and read on the newspaper that L&T made a building for Sitco in 96 days.
96
right?
days.
So, I mean, that's that without technology, it's not possible. We may do whatever, whoever L&T is, or I mean, any company, they all, every one of us is, is averse to technology. And if we don't adopt it, I think the growth path will only be probably a limited factor. So I think the success for any development from now on, or at least for the future, is going to be technology. And it will be in every aspect, maybe sales, CRM, construction, drawings, planning, finance, banking, whatever. Every aspect of it is some technology or the other. So I think most important for it is to adapt to it. And that's where the success of a development will lie, or a builder will lie, is that if you are averse to such kind of technologies.
True. And, I think the one other positive that you see is that these are not now standalone initiatives around it. So whether you look at the fact that, channel partners, they are adopting technology, the contractors, they are adopting technology and kind of, betting their organization around it. Even the lenders, have got much different technology, both from a customer perspective and as well from a B2B point of view there. So just to kind of round up, from a technology perspective, metaverse. What's your view on metaverse, from a real estate operations in India?
Well, very early to say, but I think, I mean, at least if you personally ask me 10 years earlier, if you say I would have a virtual Ajmera island, or I would have a virtual whatever, we all would laugh at each other. But I think that's where slowly that reality is coming in. But I think eventually, see, one thing is very clear: we all are humans, right? The touch and the feel of all of us is not going to go away. That's nature. That's what we all live and aspire for. So a physical house or a physical whatever real estate asset is something which every Indian will have for sure. In terms of virtual assets, virtual money, I think that's the future, and that will be something which will be there for your growth prospect. But for your personal look, touch, feel, I think brick and mortar is going to stay, and that's where we all humans, unless human existence go away, I think that's where we will start seeing virtually. But I mean, at least we all believe in, and it is all of us where we are. I think till we all are there, I think we will need a house for ourselves. We will need a road. We'll need an asset for ourselves. And that's how we will still all grow. But yes, And having said that, I think for the, your personal growth in terms of your, what do you call, growth of money development, your own self, I think it's going to be a business. So you can have your virtual assets and your virtual technology, but it is more of, it's just a kind of a business than having it in reality. So that's, I think there will be a distinct difference between two.
Sure. And I think the one of the aspects of metaverse, which I am excited about, and I would believe that a number of Indian companies would also go for and look forward to that kind of change happening as well, is the fact that the interaction between the customer and the company, the fact that you can have a virtual mode of interaction which is quite close to the real side of it, the kind of currently, from a real estate perspective, as you do the 3D modeling, and there are various kinds of audio video presentations which are done, somewhere metaverse would kind of bring all of that together in a strong way. So the touch and feel, in certain sense, as a perceptions from a buyer perspective, that's something which is gonna metaverse would kind of change that interaction mode of it in a good way. So while the virtual reality part of it is what we will see, because that's something we'll have to, stand the test of time as well. And all the fact that, that there are multiple metaverses also, so which one would finally kind of come through and stay on as well, as something that, could be anybody's guess at the current time. But certainly in terms of, it's a new way of interaction, which, from a Gen Z perspective, as well as as the adoption happens more, that's an area to look out for.
I absolutely see. Even today, if you go to see today, when we were at COVID, I think immediately within the next 15 days or so, every one of us as developers adopted to virtual world. We started doing Zoom meetings with our customers. All of that was, was towards kind of, I would say, metaverse technology. But at the same time, I mean, at least as Indians, I would say 90% of us would want to believe in the, at least the touch and feel. While we will have that kind of, the virtual, even today, when we see our sales being done in terms of 3D mappings and, the 3D technologies and, VRs and all of that, that is there. But eventually the final decision is after seeing the site or after believing in the site. So I think 90% of our business happens through virtual, but it's the hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so 90% of our business happens virtually, but it's the last 10% which is very critical for him to take the decision. So yes, this is where we are moving towards, and that will be there. My thing was that whether a virtual asset will in the future be something which we all will aspire for. My answer is yes, but that would be like a side income or a side business, but not like the real asset what we all develop today.
Okay, great. So kind of coming towards because we got a very limited time, but let's try and kind of get a couple more thoughts from you. So since we are on the topic of the virtual as well as metaverse and other perspective in that, so how do you see the recent trends for working from home and also anywhere as well, affecting the trends of buying the house as well as from an office space perspective there? I know it's a very wide topic, but some quick thought on that would.
So my thought, even when we had the trend and era of working from home I was very clear at that time. We are Indians, we are social animals. We love to, how much ever we love to stay indoors and with our family. I think we have a world outside with, with the people who we interact.
Let me add a positive side to it as well. I mean, from a real estate perspective, do you see that when you answer this, if you can add on perspective on things, then how does it impact, trends in a tier 2 or tier 3 city?
Yeah. So as I said, and my thought was very clear that work from home is probably for us, and it's been proven worldwide that it was a temporary phenomena, because eventually effectiveness of a person is different when he's home or when he's outside. And primarily we as India, we are a developing nation today. All of us, don't have the what do you call, the liberty or the luxury to have a separate bedroom or a separate workspace within us, within our own house. While at least I would say 20% of us probably may be having, but 80% still have to adjust to their needs and requirements. So I think it's more important, where, probably, to 1 or 2 bedroom, where you have the wife, the husband, the kids, all studying. One is virtually studying, two are virtually working. I think it becomes more difficult. So work from home was a temporary adjustment for all of us, which we all did. But I think eventually, for us as Indians, as I said, we being more social animals, we love to be, interacting and meeting people around, increasing our efficiencies while meeting outside. So I think that's where we all will adopt to. Tier 2, Tier 3 had, luckily with them, space was not a constraint, or, most of them. So in terms of, still moving out, so that was not something which they really had to worry about. But everywhere I feel, work will be from a work space. You can have a hybrid, maybe 1-2 days from home and 4-5 days from your office, but we will require workspace where you have your own, people to work with and your decisions to take.
Sure. No, fully endorse that, given that the fact that, that there is a need for larger collaboration to happen, and the fact that, the bonding as well as the culture building part of it. And of course, there are certain professions and there are certain parts of the profession as well, which can be managed, through the work from home or work from anywhere as well. So we would see certain changes, and we are seeing changes as well. At the same time, it's a mixed, opinion so far on that. And so coming to the last question, and, we understand we've got, we will try and take, a couple of audience questions as well there, so just the last part of it, sustainability and green practices, is something which is, a very important area, and something which, towards net zero, as a country was also moving towards it. Of course, we've got a 2070, given our population, given our, state as well, towards that area part of it. But, companies are adopting net zero on a very quicker basis as well at an individual company level. What's the practices Ajmera Group is following on this?
We are, trying to move towards to see how we can, reduce our carbon emissions, and that's where we are as a company working on. Well, I wouldn't say we would be net zero in the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but we are. There is a team which is really working to see what are the practices which we can adopt to see that we become a net zero company in the coming future, because ESG is something which is our responsibility towards the environment. While we do so, I think in a long term, it is more adoptable and acceptable for the people and the public at large, because it saves a lot of investments of theirs, or recurring expenses of theirs is something which will be, saved if you have a better and a greener technology in terms of lighting, in terms of solar, and, those kind of, power. If you have a solar power, probably you have a, less recurring expenditure, the e-vehicles, the electric vehicles which are coming forward. I think those are those places where you see your, recurring expenditure being saved. So you may have a capital expense more, but eventually long run, probably your customers would be more happy. So that is one part of it. But in terms of construction technology, we are trying to see what best we can adopt, which are, eco-friendly, obviously fly ash and bricks, those kind of things, which we anyways do it right now. But somewhere can we look at, just to give a very wild thing, something looking at bricks which are made from completely plastic and waste plastic, which is not, which is saving the environment and at the same time becoming more efficient for use. So, I mean, these are some thought processes which we are working on. So hopefully we try to get something, and overall our target is to be a zero emission company in the coming few years. I don't know when, but that's where our process is.
No, sure. So thanks, Dhaval, for the time. I think we've had a good interaction, and we got some points, during our discussion as well. I'll invite Sapna back. If there are, there's time, and if there's a couple of audience questions, we could kind of address them as well.
Yes, we do have. In fact, we have many, but we'll take just a few of them. Neeraj, one question is for you that, you have interacted over generations of developers in the industry. What is the difference you find between generations when your interactions happen?
That's an interesting one. And, like Piyush, I'm not that old as well, but yeah, of course, there is considerable.
It is a takeaway from, takeoff from the earlier section, yes.
No, of course. Given 25 years of consulting experience, certainly I think the two three things, if I may say. One, I think the earlier generation was operating under a very heavily regulated environment, and also an environment where the customer was not having the power of knowledge and information on its tips there and that. So and it was a very local subject, if I may say that. I think the things have changed drastically in the last 7 to 10 years, effectively, where we've seen pan-India models coming up in a strong way. We've seen a much more integration towards the needs and aspirations, across, getting more thematically done across the country now, at least from a metro's perspective, and even I would say some of the non-metros part of it there. So I think when you see the style of operation, is reflective of the environment that they were operating in. So in the second generation point of view, I think they bring in a lot of technology, they bring in a lot of change in practices, they bring in a lot of fresh energy to kind of see that they are able to influence the organization to have this integration of professional management very strongly. So openness for getting opinions out from outside, getting people from outside as well, and the fact listening much more to the customer. So I think after RERA, that is something which has happened even more tremendously and more fast, in the organization around it. So that I would say is a very good trend that we see right now. And I think and you would have seen this through the day as well.
And how about the next generation which is going to come in? Is it going to be even easier for them, even more, as we are talking about, now, would they be now dealing in metaverse with the properties, or how is it going to be?
I think each generation has had its own share of a set of challenges that they are trying to deal with, and there is no a set recipe of handling them as well. But there is a perspective that customer centricity is the king or the key for getting now a larger success around it there. So the companies which are listening to their customers, companies which are listening to their own people as well, much more stronger, because the days of having liasoning, let's say, done in a particular way, and having certain advantage of certain access to information, some of the parts which were very much common earlier, those have kind of gone away, that much on it, and there are very limited advantages of that. And so build to stock is not the case now. Build to sell is something which is now people are trying to do more there.
Okay, that's right. Dhaval, like Neeraj said, every generation has its own challenges. So what are the set of challenges that you face? You started very young, like you said, you got the hands-on experience. So what are the set of challenges that you are looking at now, which probably the next generation coming in would not have to face?
Well, real estate development is something, at least, primarily I would say in Bombay, does not, is not as simple or as, just on clear. There is, challenges each and every place, be it the at-site construction, be it for, for your approvals, be it your banking or funding requirements, or be it your sales. I think every aspect, or even, if I have to say legal, when you're buying your raw material as a developer is land, it's not that every land is clean and clear title. It comes with its own challenges, right? So I think that's, the first generation came when, I would say, at least when we bought lands, they knew there would be a set of problems during doing the, acquisition of a land. When we came into the business, we will try and see how much we can. They would still buy the land, obviously, at the first generation. So we will settle this during the course of time. When we came into our business, we saw that, no, we should buy at least lands which are 80-90% clear. We'd handle the next 10%. Now, if I have to say the next generation, they will not even touch the land which has even 1% of a problem, because they don't want to get into a mess or a problem unless, at least I would say universe at large, unless it is clear and they are right in doing so, because there are more and many things which they need to follow. So I think what I see is they would want to make this, real estate practice in India a hassle-free, without any issues or challenges, which is difficult. But at least I would say, unless they are 90% there, it will be difficult for them to adopt. So, what I see is they would want to make this, real estate practice in India a hassle-free, without any issues or challenges, which is difficult. But at least I would say, unless they are 90% there, it will be difficult for them to adopt. So, what I see is they would want to make this, real estate practice in India a hassle-free, without any issues or challenges, which is difficult. But at least I would say, unless they are 90% there, it will be difficult for them to adopt. So going forward, I think their challenge is to mitigate the risk maximum, till the time they actually start to work.
That's right. And in fact, so many avenues now coming up within real estate, so many asset classes coming up, so many investment opportunities in terms of, we were talking about REITs are there, fractional are there, mutual funds, real estate are there. So many other, avenues now there for not only the professionals, but also the consumers. So it's kind of, the real estate is growing at a fast pace. So before we close this, session, Dhaval, what have been your learnings from the earlier generation? And what would be your giveaways for the next generation?
Still, don't please call me so old. I can still work and I can give.
But those who are planning to be part of this profession, so what would be your advice to them and your own learnings that you took from your early generation?
So I think the biggest and the most important learning what we took, at least I took from my seniors and my father and my uncles and my elder brothers, was that they have been, they have known the business, and they were risk takers, but they knew where to stop. One thing which we really learned is not to be too greedy. So we've as business not done, don't do businesses which will involve your risk in terms of over leveraging, over trading. I think those kind of things which I've really learned from my super seeds and generations earlier. But going forward, I would just say one thing: real estate is now going to become very, very competitive, very, very transparent, very, very compliant. I think these three things are going to be the future for real estate. And if you want to be successful in the going future, the most important thing is you have to adopt this three to the T, to the best. Be absolutely compliant, be absolutely transparent, and be absolutely competitive. I think know the market well and do your business. I think you will be successful.
That's fantastic. You need, first of all, the learning that you need to know when to stop, when not to take the risk. Very important learning, I think. And then, as I said, you need to be compliant. You need to be, going forward, know how to do business and, be within the regulations. Neeraj, you would like to add something to it, what Dhaval just mentioned?
I think, very rightly, and I think keeping it short, I think the three things I may say, so one is, for the new generation that's coming from a real estate perspective, I think diversification is a very big area, given that, now concentration on one particular segment or one particular city, is not something which is that much required now. Of course, state continues to be local as well, so there is a requirement there, but diversification into different parts of it. So, developers doing warehouses, developers doing data centers, developer looking at hospitality, whichever perspective there is a, strength on that. The second is, in terms of scale, I think whichever area the developers can scale, I think that is what is, a very critical element of that. And that's where the focus needs to be as well. And the third, I would say, is kind of linked together to say that customer centricity and trust, part of it. So as and when more and more consistency comes in, as and when more customer centricity, takes place in the organization, the trust factor eventually is the company which are trusted the most, they would tend to gain and have premium over others eventually there as well. So these are three things that I will say.
That's right. And I think in all the conversations that we had today with all the young developers, these three things, they were very focused on customer centricity, diversification of the portfolio, and, the scaling up of, So even in Ajmera, we have seen how the scaling up has happened, diversification across geographies under Dhaval, Ajmera, and now, the new generations coming in. So fantastic conversation. I think we couldn't have asked for a better closing to this entire conclave. Thank you, Neeraj, for those wonderful questions and wonderful conversation that you had with Mr. Dhaval Ajmera. And Dhaval, once again, thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your perspective. On a lighter note, before we let you go, any pain points of being the middle person, the middle child, the second generation between the two generations?
Well, I am actually a catalyst between the two. So when the third generation is a very wacky idea, and if I have to, have to convince the first generation, it's us who come in to, tie the knots. So I think I'm more blessed on that.
That's right. I understand your pain. I'm the middle child as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Bansal and Mr. Ajmera, for being here with us today. And thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, Neeraj.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dhaval, and thank you very much, Sapna, for this opportunity. Great to be here today.